We ready to start?
Sure, I'll read the intro.
Sure, thank you, Ed.
You're welcome. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 and March 23rd order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Southampton Select Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Reminder that persons who would like to listen to view this meeting while in progress may do so by go to zoom.us/join, hit join a meeting in the top right of your screen, type in the meeting ID of 813-0403-0687, enter the password 371311, hit join. Please be sure to mute your device when joining in. Note, to join in video meeting with cell phone, you will need to download the Zoom app from the App Store. The call-in telephone number is 646-558-8656, or by watching public access TV Charter Spectrum Channel 191. In-person attendance and public comment at select board meetings will be suspended until further notice. If you email a written public comment before the scheduled select board meeting, it will be read at that select board meeting. If you email a written public comment after viewing something at a live televised select board meeting, it will be read at the next select board meeting. Please send your public comments via email to selectmen@townofsouthampton.org. Excuse me. Please note that all public comments must be within the requirements of the policy on public comments listed in the open time to the public on the select board agenda.
Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's begin then with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
the
United States of America
and
to
to
the
the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty.
and justice for all.
Get better at that.
Yeah, that was much better, thanks. The primary reason for this meeting, this extra meeting, is to discuss the budget and the increase in the anticipated $49,000, and a discussion if we are advocating a amendment for the town meeting floor. But I just wanted to start with a nice letter I got from Mary Balfour, who was our recipient of the Boston Post Kane Award, who turned 97 this summer. It says, "Dear Maureen, it was thoughtful of the town to honor me on my 97th birthday. 3 women gave up their Saturday morning to bring flowers, a plaque, and to snap pictures. Despite my having lived here for 24 years, we didn't know each other, and yet my home on Pleasant Street is my favorite of the 12 others I've lived. Born in Kentucky, I've lived in 7 states plus Canada, and there's no place I'd rather be. I'm a very fortunate woman. What more can I say? Thank you, cordially, Mary Balfour."
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, so thank you, Francine and Chris, for awarding that to her. And there is a delay. We were going to have the birthday gathering for the other 2 97-year-olds, but that's being postponed because of the very hot weather. And so that will be, I believe, 25th or 6th of August.
It's 26th.
So Wednesday at 4 and the 26th.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today. Yeah.
And I just want to say that Mary Balfour is someone who inspires all of us to get to where she is. She was terrific. Enjoyed meeting her.
Yeah, and when we were there, and she was there with her son, and the only thing that she really wanted when the family was getting together later in the day was lobster.
Oh, wow.
Not a bad choice.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, then. So next would be just the select board reports. Are there any other reports in the last week? Someone would like to start?
No reports.
I just got out of a Board of Assessors meeting, just routine matters, nothing earth-shaking.
Okay.
We had another finance committee meeting last week. That went well. And the folks will be attending the annual town meeting. So that's good. And there's a planning meeting tomorrow night at 7.
Okay. All right, I had a meeting last night, sat in on the Hampshire Regional meeting. So I'll go through, it's obviously, it's a little longer than most. But anyway, I just want to report in that the technology director, Kim Flork, reported on the district's readiness to begin school on September 16th based on the one-to-one model, which means that each student and teacher will have a laptop or an iPad dedicated to each for their exclusive use. The district just purchased 921 laptops/iPads to bring its total to 1,635 pieces of equipment. The IT director also purchased software to facilitate an interactive instruction between the students and the teachers. They'll continue to identify the need for additional hotspots to meet the needs in areas where broadband is not either available or sufficient. Now, that 1635 is equipment for the entire district. That's the high school and all the elementary schools. I mentioned last week that the equipment was purchased with school choice funds, which will be reimbursed when a number of grants that are anticipated are received. At its August 4th meeting, the school committee approved a return to school model where students in grades 8 to 12 will work remotely from September 16th to October 2nd. This is for the high school now. However, grade 7 students will follow a hybrid model, which means that the students will receive an in-person instruction as well as remote instruction. So they've divided them into 2 groups alphabetically, A to L, M to Z, to offer students, the first group, Group A, will be in school on Mondays and Tuesdays. The second group B will be in the school physically on Thursdays and Fridays. Wednesday, that middle day of the week, is remote learning for everyone. So that's how they wanted to bring the new students, the 7th graders, on to help them transition from elementary school into the high school setting, getting, an orientation physically to the building, to meet other students, to get acquainted with their teachers. So it's a very thoughtful plan. But there are some ground rules associated, and that's that when the students are in the building, they will be wearing masks at all times, and they'll be given what they're called mask breaks regularly throughout the day. They'll be there in the morning only. And then return home for the afternoon and continue their instruction via Zoom. When the 7th graders are not assigned to be in person that day, they'll be given manageable tasks to complete that will support their transition. As I mentioned on Wednesdays, all students will participate in remote learning in their typically scheduled school periods associated with the schedule regardless of their selected learning model. Additional meetings to additional students to the 7th graders who will come into the school for instruction starting on September 16th include students with high needs students based on their IEPs, students who may be homeless, and those students who may have no internet access. The school committee will decide the next steps at their September 14th meeting once they have more data upon which they can make subsequent decisions beyond the October 2nd date, which they've set for themselves for this kind of remote learning. So I'm going to say to everybody, stay tuned. It's a work in progress. And I mean, it's a good work in progress, but it certainly is complicated. If anyone wants to look at the return to school plan, it's on the regional high school website. It goes into great detail. It's a very good read. And if you have students, I think it's worth everyone taking the time to read the document that they've prepared. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Unless, Tammy, is there anything that I might have missed?
Tammy's muted.
Thank you. Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway, School Committee Representative. The only thing I would say is the other piece of students that will be in the school is, yes, if they're homeless, but if they are in an environment that is not,
A safe environment.
safe environment, we want them in the school.
Yes,
Get
absolutely.
them there and we can help them. The other thing they're going to be working on is how to get lunches to everyone.
Yeah.
That was another big concern, is that, if we can get a bag lunch to them on the bus when they're going home, or, but they can't eat at the school, because if they eat at the school, it has to be outside. The other thing is we are working with the teachers for the contract negotiations on the MOA. I just came from a meeting from that, and we have 3 more set up.
Thank you.
Well, I hope by taking people that are in unsafe living environments to a school, that we're going to be able to provide a safe living, working environment, learning environment. Because there is an increase on COVID in children, and can't think of any school system that's having kids start in September. So, was Jerry Swanson's letter brought to the meeting at all or considered?
It was not discussed.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Francine, in the paper today, there was a letter to the editor by one of the regional school committee members. Did you read that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and he said he voted for the 4th option, which apparently it wasn't a 4th option, and he was going to try to get the school committee to come back on the 13th to discuss. Is that anything to that, or Tammy wants to say something?
Tammy's waving. I know they talked about subsequent meetings and, updating with the information that they can gather, but I'll let Tammy talk.
That was Tom Cleary, who is our newest member to the Hampshire Regional School Committee. There was a letter that he did end up reading at our meeting and doing forth a whole new proposal, that another person came up with 4 other amendments to his, only to have all of it turned down, and have only 1 person vote on that other model. The big thing was having only half of the 7th graders in the school, and having the teachers there, and knowing that that would be an environment for them to start learning. But yes, it was an interesting, because we did have access to all the comments. The survey that was sent out by the school, all the school committee members did have access to who wrote what and what they felt. And no matter what we had chosen, somebody would have been upset. But last night's meeting, we had 3 7th graders get on, and they ran a survey that they did, and they polled places, and they all want to be back. They want to get in there and
Of course they do. Of course they do. This is why you go with science. This is why, if you can write in and everybody will have a different opinion, which is why you can't go wrong when you go with science. And I'm just, my kids were in 7th grade and they loved going up to Hampshire Regional. They're finally a big kid. We had a meeting on Monday morning with the fire chief, police chief, EMD, Jerry Swanson, myself, Ed Gibson, and half the meeting was talked about this, and which is why I sent all the school committee members Jerry's letter. So it's your decision to make, and I hope it's a good one. I just feel like we're not going in the right direction in the country in terms of the children, and school committees, school systems that have opened have closed, and there are kids that are quarantined. I just hope we're doing the right thing. You can't ask kids their opinion about whether they want to go to school.
Well, this isn't a school committee meeting, and so I think we're veering off topic, but also, Rainey, and I mean this wholeheartedly, respectfully, also as a healthcare worker, I don't think the science is conclusive on this. at all.
I think the number of cases, okay, I guess we are going off topic, but you know.
We are, but
it's about
that's
the
why I just
number
had to
of
say that since we went down that road, but
positive cases, you can't deny that the rate of increase in children is going up in this country. The rate of COVID going up in the state is going up. There's only a small number of states in this country that haven't had an increase. You know, Rhode Island was just added to the list of places that you can't go. I just hope that you have to make decisions based on those statistics and public health. I don't think you can make the decision based on whether or not the children want to go to school or whether the parents want them to go to school. I just hope they're safe, that's all.
I mean, just understand that this does not apply to the majority of the students. This hybrid opening, it's only for the 7th graders.
Who live in families.
I understand.
Who live in families with 8th graders and grandparents and parents.
I understand that.
They do not live in a vacuum.
I hear you.
I hope you have enough teachers that are going to show up. I mean,
that was my question. How are the teachers reacting to this plan, Francine?
Well, I know there's a team of people negotiating with the teachers union. They had a meeting today, and as Tammy said, they're going to have several more already scheduled. I was not part of that discussion. Whether or not Tammy can talk about what they discussed today, I don't know whether or not she can at this point.
I cannot, I'm sorry, but yes, we are working with the teachers on their list of things they want and our list of things that we want.
We did get an email from the negotiator too today. I don't know if everybody saw it.
I did, but it didn't give us any details.
So it's fair to say there's concerns that they're trying to work through.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Tammy or Francine? The Board of Health didn't meet since last week. The Council of Aging did. They had a speaker who is an ambassador of sorts in the pickleball circuit, which is becoming very popular. They have somewhat accepted the fact that the courts, hopefully will be built in the spring. The usual business was taken care of. And I just want to let people know that there are a couple of people in the senior center that are continue to reach out to all the seniors, and the seniors in our community really appreciate it. And thankfully, a lot of them are getting, good care from their families and such. So, and then open space was supposed to meet Thursday night, but they have rescheduled for the following Thursday because the open space and recreation plan is scheduled for this Thursday instead. Chris, do you have anything?
No other meetings this week. Yep.
Okay. Ed?
No, that was actually listed out as no report, so I don't have anything.
Okay. New business, annual town meeting planning committee update. John and Tammy, would you like to give us an update?
Ed, Tammy, and I were there.
And Robert?
We had a meeting, when was it, Ed? Last Thursday? Last Thursday we had a meeting just to firm up all the information and go over the details again. Everybody was there, I think, except for the health director. She couldn't make it, but the parking, the planning went very well, and I think we're all set to go. Robert was there. He's going to be probably on the back of a trailer instead of a podium, but he can handle that. But we're making signs. We're using only the chairs that we have brought in. We've got the police, the fire. Everything's pretty much set up. Ed, is there anything that we didn't get the details on all set? I don't remember anything.
No, everything's good to go. There's a notice on the website for the main particulars for the town, and also sent out a code red message that over the weekend, and I will send out another one probably Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, I didn't get this particular one, but Robert said it was a very good message that went out. I remember reading his comments. But in my opinion, if everybody follows the directions in the rules, we're going to have ushers both with the vehicles as well as inside for the seating, social distancing. If you don't have a mask, you're in a certain area. So as long as they follow the rules, I think it'll be fine. The unknown is, will there be people that don't want to follow the rules? You know, I don't want to wear a mask and I'm not sitting over with the people that don't wear it. I want to sit with my family. So we'll just have to deal with that. And, you know, we'll have, Ian's going to have a couple officers there in case there's any issues, which we hope we don't, but.
You know, Robert's on the call also. Does Robert or Tammy want to say anything?
You have to unmute them.
Yep.
Yeah, doing that now.
Robert Floyd, 166 College Highway. I was really impressed, continuously impressed with the committee, and everyone seems to pitch in, play devil's advocate, come up with ideas, counter the ideas. So I think we're 99.9% accomplished, and I'm looking forward.
Thanks, Robert. And you're also, you're having your run through of the articles?
We did that last Thursday, and there's a link available.
Good.
And I put out the committee's progress and what is usually the moderator's talk and all the articles. So
Okay.
there's a lot in there, yeah.
Was there anybody joining the call?
I didn't want any.
Okay.
I wanted it to go clean so I wouldn't get distracted.
Okay.
But there was a lot of people weighing in and also looking for the link, so yeah.
Okay, good, thanks. Thank you, Robert. Tammy, do you want to add anything?
Oh, I'm good.
Does the committee need any help with anything?
We have a
At
bunch
this
of
point, I think we're good with everything. We've got some backup volunteers for parking attendants just in case, but that's probably the only thing, if we did have some volunteers for that we're probably a little bit light on.
Hey, Maureen, do you mind if we ask Lucy if she has any thoughts on it? She'll be involved.
Yeah, thanks. Is she unmuted yet?
Not yet.
Okay, yeah, no, thanks, Lucy.
I just wanted to let you know that the sign, the sandwich board sign has been made. It's going to be put up at the front of Labrie Field. So it's going to say annual town meeting here today, 9 a.m., August 15th. We're going to put it out Saturday morning early. And I have 4 counters who are going to be working. They're volunteers. I'm putting out a thing on the community page today with instructions about the annual town meeting and about the elections. So just to let you know, but everything else is all set for my area in the meeting.
Great.
One question came up, Rini, and I forgot who asked it, but the question was, will we need signs directing people to the Labrie Field, because a lot of people don't necessarily come out to the meetings, but I don't know the answer to that, you know?
Yeah, it might be worth having a sign out in front of Norris that says town meeting is actually at Labrie Field on Strong Road, just because if people don't, pay attention to the details, they might just automatically think it's at Norris.
Tammy, that's on the mother's board, right? Yeah, so that's on the corner of Pomeroy, yeah.
I was thinking of having something on East Street and Strong Road from both ends with simple arrow ATM for those who are daydreaming or listening to the radio while they drive, trying to be fashionably on time.
How big of a sign do you think that would take, Robert?
Oh, 3x2.
Oh, okay.
Or thereabouts.
Lucy and Tammy are trying to say something, but they're muted again.
Can we please stay unmuted? Please. Go ahead, Tammy.
I picked up all the plastic from Lucy that I had given, and I have some signs that say town meeting with an arrow.
Right.
I did not think of doing one over at North School because we've been blasting it everywhere that it's at Labrie.
Could the Norris custodian put it on their sign out there where it says?
And ask.
Great idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
I will ask.
they've got the happy retirement sign out there now, but maybe they could add that there too.
Well, because school isn't in session right now, so.
Right.
Right.
I think that was good because I think some people will end up at the Norris School. I still see people going to the old town hall trying to do town hall business as late as last month.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to have it at Norris then.
Yeah.
I will contact the custodian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How early do you need us there on Saturday? Sorry. To help out? Do you want us there like at 7:30 or something to help out, or?
Some of us that are going to do the chairs and all that stuff are going to be there at 7 o'clock. The actual registration, if you will, starts at 8.
Have we told people to come early to register? Registration is starting at 8.
It's on all the signs.
Okay,
Yeah, and Ed did it in his Connect, Ed.
okay.
And on Facebook and in Robert's email, we've specified check-in starts at 8.
8 o'clock, okay.
Mm-hmm. And this time the meeting won't be recorded, right?
It will be recorded for rebroadcast, but it will not be live.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Okay. Good.
I think there are people that are generally not going out that much, and people that are not, don't usually communicate electronically. So I think the code red, I think would be helpful, Ed, if you make a point of saying that it's going to be at Labrie Field on Strong Road and what time people should arrive.
That's part of the message that I had already sent out, and I will send it out again.
Okay.
And I had it in the new Westfield, the reminder. They've already been publishing it in there.
Good.
Great. Does that go to every household in Southampton, the new one?
No, you can opt out of it.
Can you really?
I believe so.
No, I didn't realize that.
I think it started every household, and then people have been complaining, and so they've gotten a link now to be able to opt out if they want to.
Right.
As you see in other communities, sometimes you'll see 3, 4, 5, 6 of them sitting out there, over the course of time. And,
Yeah. But actually, it's a good source for local news. I've been impressed with what I've seen so far.
yeah,
Well,
if you take it.
I told them it was a public announcement, so I was able to get it in free.
Great.
Great.
Anything else on the plans for the town meeting?
That covers it pretty well.
Okay. You're all set, Ed?
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the FY21 budget and estimated revenues, which is primarily the reason for the meeting is to, look at the additional money that we are pretty certain is going to come our way, $49,000, and I think 26 of it or thereabouts is Chapter 70 for the schools. So I think last time we had a discussion around, what areas of the budget could we either reestablish or whatever. And I think last time, picking it back up again, we mentioned a few things. We mentioned establishing the positions that currently aren't filled, the 2 assistant administrative positions, 1 in the town clerk office and 1 in the assessors. We talked about the street lighting. We're going to get some data in terms of how the lighting and the price of that might contribute towards the credits we have. We talked about Ed, we mentioned about restoring his salary, which he declined, the additional $3,000. We also talked about establishing more money back to the legal fund. We mentioned about the mosquito thing that Matt's family was very generous to offer to cover at $5,000. And so where would you like to start the discussion?
I've got a question. If if you don't mind, Lucy, going in on the assistant town clerk. I'm interested in how the election September 1st and November 1st is affecting her on getting all the requests for ballots in, the ballots out, and all that.
Wow, let me tell you. So the state, was working with a printer for the ballots, and they didn't get them out on time. So we just got them on Friday afternoon, FedExed to us. So Monday, yesterday I started working with a volunteer. I've been entering all of the applications that are coming in since they've been coming in. The stack is like this big, very big, to enter in. We mailed out ballots today. The registrars, 3 registrars came in today to help stuff envelopes, and I was entering the data into the system, and someone was stuffing envelopes into envelopes, and another person was doing the labeling. So it's very time consuming. I would hope that you would think about restoring the assistant town clerk position. Even if I don't even have time to interview someone right now, but that should be included in that budget. It is not an administrative assistant position. It is the assistant town clerk. So that person takes over when I am not there. That means if something needs to be sealed with the town hall seal, that's my office. No one else can do that except for the town clerk's office. All of the election stuff is in our office. It cannot be given out to other areas. There's documents in my office that cannot go out of the office. It's very important to have an assistant town clerk in there, even if it's part-time. There is so much going on. And when I have to do the state computer work, I have to put aside the work that I am also doing. So I am basically doing 2 positions right now with no help, except for the Board of Registrars. The 3 stepped in today to help out. So, and they're going to be there tomorrow. And I'm just putting it out there because I know the community page on Facebook, people are asking, oh, well, you didn't get did anybody get their ballot today? I mailed my card a week and a half ago. Well, yes, you mailed your card a week and a half ago. We just got the ballots, and we have to enter in the application the day it came in. We have to enter in when we mail the ballot, and then we have to enter in when the ballot comes back. So there is a big process to mailing out ballots. Mm-hmm. And people just don't understand that, but it is time consuming. And I am hoping that people will be patient with us, but we are trying to get them out as soon as possible. We haven't even gotten the local election ballots yet. They're coming hopefully tomorrow, and then we have to send those out too. So, another body in my office would be very helpful if it was my assistant. When I have to go on vacation, I have to close the office. So I'm disservicing the town by doing that. And it's not an admin assistant position. And it cannot be done by a temporary from a temp agency. That will not work. So I'm asking you to please fund the assistant town clerk position in the budget. That's all.
The position is 18 hours a week, right?
Well, the position was 20 hours a week before I came on. And for some reason, it was changed to 18 by former town clerk. But there was no PRF or PCF put in to change the hours from 20 to 18. It was just changed.
Well, there's a huge difference between 20 and 18.
I'm sorry?
There's a huge difference between having a position for 20 and having a position for 18.
I know that. I do know that. Yes, I know.
Any other questions about the budget process? Thanks, Lucy. Anybody else that want to discuss any of the other ideas or considerations? We got some documents today. Jen sent over via Ed some documents in terms of the amount of money based on the time that either of those positions would be hired. I don't know if you found anything else about the street lighting or about the Any of the other information we're going to find out as far as the cow power credits?
And we do not have an answer on whether they can change that account over yet or not. They're still looking into that, and they don't have an answer for us. I did talk to Ian today. As you know, from the list he sent over, he broke the existing street lights down into 5 tiers. The number 1 priority being the highest priority, which are street lights which are at busy intersections, where they have had crashes, where there may be crosswalks crossing the street, or where there may be bends in the road that wouldn't be lit otherwise and don't have any reflective material to let the driver know where they are. If you look at that priority 1 category, that amounts to about 32% of what would have been the starting point of the original $24,000 budget. What is currently budgeted at $4,000 would only amount to about 17% of the original budget. So if the select board was going to look at utilizing amendments to utilize some or all of the $22,699 additional that would be available from unrestricted government aid. I might suggest that you'll at least think of putting $4,000 or $5,000 back into that street lighting account so that all those tier priority 1 lights are stay on.
I guess my question is, how did we, if that was the priority, how did we get to 4,000 when we needed 8,000 or 9,000 from what you're saying?
Yeah, I thought the 4,000 took care of priority 1. No?
Half of them.
No, that was done before the priority list came out.
Yeah. I think we'd put that figure in, I think, before Ian had developed the list that we got, I think.
Okay.
Correct.
So is the chief recommending we fund the priority 1 fully?
I would recommend that we fund the priority 1 fully.
Oh, okay, but what does the chief say? I mean, from a safety point of view, I guess that would be my concern. If it's a priority 1, it seems to be a safety issue.
I would say it's a safety issue. He did say there might be a couple in that priority 1 that he might be able to make or might really be priority 2s, but there weren't a lot of those. That for the most part, as he looked at it, they were either busy intersections, areas where they have seen a number of crashes, where there are crosswalks, or like I say, bends in the road that you might not notice otherwise.
Rainey, can I ask a question on that electrical contract we have that you're looking into? It's just a contract there. We want to change the account from one Southampton account to another Southampton account because the account that we use is streetlights for one of them, and we're not going to be having streetlights on, so there won't be any power needed, correct?
Right, well, we get a credit, so the question is, how much do we have to pay towards the use of their service in order to still maintain the credits we get?
Right, but I'm saying
if basically on a monthly basis to maintain that service to get those credits, it's $550 a month.
Right.
So that's going to occur no matter what. So if they are not able to switch those credits over to another account, we would still have to pay that $550 a month and then not be getting the any credits back.
But this just sounds like a contract issue that we should be able to negotiate through. You know, it's
Well, no, it's part of the it's part of the contract. We're supposedly only supposed to be able to change the contract once per year, and that was already changed in January. So we've already had our once.
But this is a COVID issue. I mean, I think we should push that and get them to change it. I mean, that's $6,000 a year that we can use. You know, I mean, a contract, if both parties agree to change it, it could be 10 times a year, you know? So I guess I would say we should push that.
And is the change allowed once per calendar year or fiscal year?
That's a good point.
Calendar year is my understanding.
But again, we should be able to, under these circumstances, go back and push for that.
Well, I think, is there an exact dollar figure on priority one street lighting? You said $4,000 to $5,000. Do you have a tighter number on that, Ed? I mean,
no, because poles can be different in cost. So I was just calculating it on the number of poles that Ian has in the priority one to the overall, and that came out to 32%. So basically 32% of the original 24,000 would be
8,000. I mean,
About 85?
yeah, 8,000.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, $7,700, and we, you know, we've already had them on at this point for about 6 weeks of all of them on for about 6 weeks of the full year, or you know, six weeks of the fiscal year.
I think that you know, Ian was the one that came up with this priority list, so I can't imagine he wouldn't support having priority one lights on if these are the areas that have been problematic. So I would support getting the lighting back on for sure, at least the priority one ones. I wouldn't want, I mean, that's where the accidents have happened, I would imagine. What do other people think?
Agree with priority one.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I'd be in favor of that too. Just, you know, whether it's another $4,000 or something to add to priority one.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
I am. Yep.
Francine, you're good with that?
Yeah, I am. I'm just trying to, you know, rather than, I'd like to see the impact of some of these other, you know, replacements of money that was taken out since we have this 22,000, basically 22.7, and look at how we can use it in other areas, and then come back to this one. I mean, if we have $4,000 in, we take another 4,000, that leaves 18 for the two positions that we're talking about. How could we manage that? I would like to look at I'd like to look at all three at the same time, both positions and the streetlights. How we could get the best for each of those situations.
People all in a general agreement that the money that was Chapter 70, obviously, well, not obviously, but goes back to the school?
Yeah.
There's no other way we can use it,
Yeah.
But Francine, to answer your question, if you look at the chart that we got from Ed, if we bring both positions back October 5th, that's $18,462.
Right.
So that would, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, what I was looking at is if the assistant town clerk started in September and the the administrative assistant to the assessor started on October, would you look at the 19? I'm just looking at scenarios where we work in our best interest to meet the needs of those departments as best we can. I mean, we're not going to be 100%.
I agree. My concern with the elections, if there's any semblance of us not getting the ballots out and back and people cry foul on there, it's going to be heck.
I agree with you.
But do we really have enough lead time to try and hire somebody before, certainly not before the September election, and even maybe before the November election? I mean, I think Lucy had advertised this position before, if I'm not mistaken, last year, and I don't think we had too many takers, which is why we went to the shared position. So, I agree that, we ought to fund some part of it, but I just don't think these timeframes are going to be realistic for us. And frankly, I'd almost say January.
I'm with you on that. It's not realistic that we hire somebody within that period of time.
Well, if we had somebody before the November election, that would be, helpful. And I
If you
think,
could.
if I remember correctly, Vicki also made us aware that there was some money already expended in those lines. Was that already accounted for, Ed?
Yeah.
It's already in the budget, so anything would be on top of that. So I think that.
Yeah, you had like a few $100s. Yeah.
And,
Yeah, you had like $200 or $300 in those lines. Yeah, so that must be what was spent. Yeah. Okay.
I have the budget, so if we make edits or changes, at least we'll have another version of it if you guys want to do that live.
Okay.
And we're talking about hiring somebody in time.
$3 already spent in the assessor admin assistant. And let's see if I can find.
It was $300.
It was small dollars.
Yeah.
$205.73 on town clerk, $205.73, and
assistant town clerk was $12,573.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, do we have time? If this is approved at annual town meeting, and that's the 21st of this month, and November election is still 2+ months away. So I think, at least for the November election, she could hire somebody and get some basic training in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with that. I mean, if we think it's realistic, I'd be okay with that idea, but.
Well, is she still on, Lucy?
No, I don't see her.
No.
Oh.
You want me to try to get her back on?
Well, for what, I mean, right now we're asking if it's realistic that she would hire somebody by October 5th.
And get somebody trained, yeah.
I mean, the job position is already written up, right? So it's a matter of posting it, right?
She could go to a temp agency with a hire from a temp agency. I'm sure they have a whole bunch of people looking for work.
Well, she just said that wouldn't work. I don't know why.
No, she said a temp worker wouldn't work. But you can go to a temp agency for a permanent worker.
Yeah.
And we also have an agency position too for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyway, can I just ask, are people in general agreement that the 3 areas that we would, support would be the lighting and these positions and the schools, or would somebody rather look to some other line?
I just had a question. I think the one that we sort of talked about, and I don't know how much we use it, but we have nothing now in the reserve fund. Is that something we should be worried about?
Yeah.
Legal.
Yeah.
We've already added 9,000 more back in there, I think.
Yeah, the year of the override, we did not have any in there. And, a lot of things come up that's not attached to a line. And I think at the special town meeting, we put $5,000, I think, back in there. Is that right, Ed?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, that's correct. And the other one that comes to my mind at this point that I would think about is the Board of Health expenses, which is at $511, which is low when you consider, expenses as far as the cost of ink cartridges, mileage that might be paid out for inspections and whatever. So that's the other one that I'm thinking of.
They could transfer from the needle program for the boxes. If you looked at what we put in this year's budget, what they used last year, there was a difference there that, if they do the same thing this year, there'll be funding there from that line.
Well, I think at the special town meeting, there was actually a vote to increase that line. And I don't know how much COVID affected people coming to town hall to drop off the Sharps containers, so it's kind of difficult to determine that.
Right.
I wonder too, we talked about it before, if they're able to free up those $9,000 that they did not use from DPH, and I would imagine if anybody should be eligible to get some CARES Act funding, it would be the Board of Health office.
Yep.
Lucy's back raising her hand.
Okay, I just want to remind people that the assessor's office isn't here to self-advocate, so I just wanted to just make sure it's, we can't, I think it's a little bit of a conflict to lobby too much for one position over the other things that are being discussed.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm lobbying for both.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think we need to look at both positions.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I have until 7:25, and then I have to leave the meeting. So you have questions, I guess?
Well, the question we were, Rini, do you want to pose it to her about how feasible?
We talked about whether this was how much it would cost for each of these. I think the question is, Chris raised is, there was difficulty getting someone into this position in the past, which is why they ended up having a shared position. And so I think the question was, if the funds were restored for an October 15 date, would there be difficulty in hiring somebody for that date, and would that be helpful before the November election?
I think we said before that date, though, didn't we, Francine?
I was looking at September 1st for the town clerk and October 5th for the assessor.
Right.
So here's the thing. There are so many ballots that have to go out and come back in that there is no time for me to post a position, interview people, and get someone hired, because we have to post a position for 10 days. And I have to interview these people. So I don't think it's a good idea for me to hire someone before September 1st, because there's no way, I can do the interviews for that.
So what if you started the hiring process September 1st, right after the election?
I could start the hiring process, absolutely. But, and yes, I would love to have someone in my office for November 3rd. Absolutely.
Okay.
And I can send, regarding pay rate and all that, I can send an email to you regarding that. I think not talk about that over.
No, that's PQB.
I'm sorry?
That would go to the Personnel Policies and Procedure Board, that level that position. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that, I think we would have to wait until the money's in the budget, and based on the timing of that, then it would be following the usual, PQB procedures that have to be signed off by the various departments and heads and such.
Yeah, but what's making this even, that we're able to consider this, are the numbers that we got from Jen. The hourly rates, the number of hours, to put it in, to plug it into the budget. So we would probably be obligated to stick with the rate that she gave us.
Right.
I would imagine.
Yeah. And John, you talked about doing a temp agency kind of thing for a permanent.
No, Lucy, before I say no, what I was thinking of is a temp to permanent hire. They have a whole lot of qualified people that you could go to saying you wanted to do a permanent hire rather than.
Okay.
So you could have somebody already pre-screened.
Okay. So the way that I heard it, John, through the grapevine was, maybe a temp position.
That was talked about. You're right.
But only for 4 months.
Yeah,
we did. I think I brought that up just trying to figure out giving you some time. But when you said that wouldn't work, and then we found out we had this extra money, we want to restore the.
I didn't know we had the extra money. Had I known we had the extra money, okay. I would have, sent you an email with some ideas of my own.
So Lucy, the issue is that we found out, we went into the budget blind, more or less, without knowing two critical numbers, which is the Chapter 70 funds and also the aid to cities and towns. And then we found out after our final meeting for the budget article for the warrant that there was a commitment on the part of the legislature and the state to fund these two areas at a particular level, and it's at least confident numbers enough to feel like we can even be having this conversation. So 6,000 of it is Chapter 70 funds for the schools, which only leaves us, an additional, $24,000 for, large, there's no way we can make up all the losses of things. So a lot of the departments are still being seriously cut. So we were just looking at what were the priorities. And obviously people are always priorities where we landed. So can I just ask the select board if there is general support to give the line of on the lighting, an additional $4,000, and to discuss these two positions being brought back either for part of the year or for, as Jen provided. Is there support throughout the board?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm okay.
How much money do we have in total for this? 22,000 what?
700, I think.
22,699. So you
Yeah,
have 18,699 after $4,000 for street lighting.
Yeah, so if we choose an October 5th start date for both positions and the $4,000 for street lighting, that'll do it.
That's it.
But I think, Francine, what you were going with, I kind of agree. If we do one September one and maybe one November one, it would give Lucy the lead time for the November election to get somebody in and trained. If we hit her October 5th, she's not going to be able to get anybody in time to train. And that's part of what we want to do this for. So
Right. If
Well,
we,
then you have to do September 1st and November 1st.
right. That's what I would suggest. September 1st for Lucy and November 1st for the town clerk.
I mean, for assessor.
Assessors.
for the assessor.
Yes.
I don't really,
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Assistant town clerk September 1 and the assessor November 1.
Yeah, but I don't feel like we have the assessors here to advocate at all.
Yeah, and look, like the reality is we're not hiring for the September. I mean, look, you have to go through an interview process. You'd hire them effective October 1st or
Right.
October 5th. So I mean, I'm just trying to just talk out loud here logistically. Like the September 1st, John, has to be the start date. There's no way we're having somebody start on September 1st. So for
Right.
equity and the fact that the assessors aren't here, we can post the position. The position would be effective to go live for both of them on October 5th. There's 4 weeks of time to post the position, let it sit for however much time we need to let it sit for, then do the interviews. I mean, there's no way you're hiring somebody before October 5th anyway, and that's the start date.
or that they would be, yeah, or that they would be
And then
starting.
it's fair between the assessor and the town clerk, and there's no favoritism there.
Well, it's not favoritism for no reason. I mean, it's favoritism because we have a big presidential election coming up and we need to address that. You know, voter fraud or mail-in, if we get any hint of that, it is just going to be, you know, tough. And I don't think we can hire somebody September 1, but we can start the process September 1. And as soon as she finds something, it'll probably be mid-September, third week of September. They can probably both do it that way and still have the right funding in place.
Yeah, I agree with John. I don't think we can just put it off because that's how it fits neatly into the chart that we have.
Yeah.
We've got to look at where is it going to make the most sense so that we can pull this election off the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah. I think we're advocating for the assessor also by
Yeah,
Right,
putting it
right.
back in. It's not as if we're picking between them. What's the best way to bring them both in?
Yeah, but you're not even listening to the assessor. We're not getting the opportunity to even hear from the assessor in terms of why it's important for that position to wait until November to be filled.
Actually, November, just to be clear, November doesn't work. Sorry to cut you off. You'd have to go to December 1st in that scenario. If you're going to go September 1st for town clerk, you're going to have to go to December 1st for the admin assistant.
but we're saying it's probably in all likelihood going to probably be around September 15th,
If not later.
if not later. But we just need to make sure that it's in the pipeline, that as quickly as we can get everybody on board, and also, there's no reason that the assessor can't start the the process as well. We just have to balance. You're making a hard and fast rule here. That's why I wanted to consider all three. Let's look at the two positions and then kind of go back and see what we have left for the streetlights.
Yeah,
Can I-
sure.
Can I make a suggestion that myself?
Lucy, can I hear from Chris Fowles first, please?
Oh, sure. I didn't hear her talking. Sorry.
No, I guess I was thinking that the process for recruiting could start anytime, as soon as either one has the time to do that, because I think that there's nothing to write in terms of a job description. They've been through PQB at one point in time, so it's a matter of some new paperwork probably to get updated, right, for that. But to get the positions posted, I still wouldn't believe that you could find somebody, interview, and have them on a payroll before October 5th.
Zero chance.
So the September, start date is kind of fictitious to me. I mean, I would be looking for October for sure for the assistant town clerk. And then depending on budget-wise, if we can do the assistant to the assessor at the same time, fine. But that one might have to postpone a month or something. But
I think if you use a temp agency, I've used them in the past 100 times or more. They have already interviewed and got resumes and checked references. So that'll save a couple weeks right there.
That's a possibility. I guess my only experience with them is that they charge a heck of a management fee.
I know the owner of a big one, so I can call in a favor if I need to.
No favors, no favors.
Favors, please, John, and be confidential.
Not a favor like that. I'm sorry. That's not to ask her to put you at the top of the list for resumes.
Can I listen? Can you hear what Lucy has to say, please?
I was just going to say that I'm suggesting maybe the assessor and myself put something together that we can run by you with, numbers and hours that we need, that kind of thing. Because you're just approving the line items, the budget, the money tonight. Are you approving it tonight?
No, we can't. The select board is not going to be proposing this budget. This budget is going to be proposed by an individual, and anybody at the town meeting has the ability to stand up and propose their own budget. I just want to remind everybody of that. So we're going to, come up with a recommendation and then possibly even recommend or nominate one of us to stand up and say, I would like to make amendment to the second, article on budget, and say we would like to propose an additional $26,000 to the school, an additional this and that. So we're only one citizen standing up here and saying, I'd like to propose as an amendment, which anybody in the room or field could do. So, and there's also, it's Saturday. So in terms of you and Martha coming up with something, that would be something that, you could do between now and Saturday and let Ed know or whatever. But we're just here to make a recommendation based on what we think are additional funds coming to the town.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do people would like to do? I mean, we're not necessarily, we can vote that we approve this, but we also have to, we can't as a select board propose this budget.
Understood.
Robert's got his hand up.
Robert, would you like to say something?
Yeah, the concept that I see, anyone proposing to change the budget as you are, you first identify that this was discussed by the select board, voted by the select board, but you, whoever the individual select board member is, makes the individual motion, but you need to paint the whole picture for everyone.
Okay. Individual citizen, not a select board, not a representative of select board per se, makes the amendment, correct?
Anybody can make an amendment, but the moderator doesn't want anyone tampering with the budget.
Roright.
So, like we had a very straightforward and short presentation several years ago, Mike Rosenberg was very clear. The Finance Committee had decided, had voted, but when it came down to making the motion, he made it.
Is there anybody on the Finance Committee that would do this motion for us, or?
Well, again, it can't be a committee. It has to be a citizen.
Right. Sorry, an individual who is now happening to sit on the Finance Committee.
No, you're fine. What the Finance Committee did is completely offer a whole new one, soup to nuts, 100%. You're simply saying we have additional monies, and this is where we want it to go, and so you're more than entitled, one of you, to make that motion.
Yeah, one of us could do it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
something
one
that
of the select board members can do it.
Yeah, I would be willing to do it, and I'm sure others would as well.
Okay, so I guess what we'll do is we'll be making a recommendation and possibly asking someone to speak on, you know, on behalf of our recommendation, even though they'd be doing it individually. So I guess it sounds like we're getting close. We talked about putting $4,000 in the lighting. We talked about the money to the schools. And there's a little bit of a difference in terms of when we support the positions, it sounds like. And then it's just a matter of the start, which affects the amount. But I think we're in agreement about the total amount of money. I think it's 18.4. And it would be a little bit of a difference between the two because one of them is 36 hours bi-weekly and the other one's 24 hours bi-weekly. So the difference is about $5,000. So would somebody like to suggest a plan?
Well, that's why I said if I came up with something to present, you know, looking at the hours, and I'm not sure, you know, what Jen gave you for a pay rate, but I can talk to Jen tomorrow and then submit something to you all that way. Then when whoever makes the motion on the floor to amend the article can say that the town clerk, you know, proposes this amount of hours for this amount of money.
And the assessor also.
And the assessor also, but I can't speak for Martha because she's not here, so
No.
I'm not sure if she even wants, you know, she wants to fund the position, that would be up to her, you know, I'm advocating for myself right now.
Well,
So,
right, you know, we, I mean, I believe we're fairly, I mean, the position already has an hourly amount in the budget. I mean, it's all, I guess it all can be up in the air, but it will have to be approved anyway by PQB. So all we're
right,
the line item for each department. Because right now, I mean, the whole process would have to go through, I mean, the positions already exist, and now that a particular hourly, and a particular hours per week.
Right. Yeah, and if you were given X amount of dollars, then you would just have to figure out how many hours you could have that person work. I mean,
right.
it may not be ideal, but it would be something, you know?
It's 12.9 compared to 7.9. If we are going, actually, that's not true. It would be 11.4 compared to 7. So if we wanted to just for now keep those numbers, it comes out to 18,400. Then that would be the line item for the, if you know, for the year, and when it started could depend on when you all got somebody, right?
Okay.
Well, but I'm still coming back to the streetlights, okay? You're putting $4,000 there. What if we put $2,000 there? What if we put $3,000 there? I would like to see the positions that we have remain as whole as possible, and then back in whatever is left into the streetlights.
Well, whole is basically 18.4 by October 5th. So anything earlier than that would be, you know,
Yeah.
I personally support priority 1 lighting.
Yeah, no, and I think, you know, we will be 3 months into the fiscal year by the time we're through with this. So we will have saved that amount of money from those 2 positions, right? We will have 9 months instead of a 12-month position. So to me, I would still want to see that, you know, if Ian has given us the priority 1 positions, tier 1 positions, I think we should try to complete funding tier 1 if we can.
I agree.
Yeah, and
And what Jen gave us was 9, 8, 7, 6 months of information here. So we already have it worked out, so we know what it costs.
Yeah.
right, and you're not going to be able to start somebody in either position for September 1st. So
No.
probably what makes the most sense is to look at starting them both on the October 5th. $11,442.60 for the assistant town clerk and $7,020 for the assessor's administrative assistant, and then you've got the $4,000 for the street lighting.
Yep, math works great.
Matt,
And then,
note too, in terms of the difference to the 22,699.
Can I ask the question? If these positions are filled by one person, then it becomes a benefited position, and that also changes the budget. So we're going to look for 2 part-time people? Is that the route we're going?
that's correct.
It is part-time.
Because this time around, and to be honest with you, an assistant town clerk should make more than an administrative assistant, just due to the
Absolutely.
duties, required education, and whatever. So in this particular case, you really can't combine the positions as one. It's two
But that's how the person who left, that was the position she held. Was she held both?
Yeah, she actually held an administrative assistant rather than an assistant town clerk.
Yeah,
So
she was
that's how
not,
that was accounted.
Okay.
right.
Would somebody, Matt, I had asked a question, so if we put in line items as opposed to start times and all that, and we put in what Jen had provided, 11,44260 and 7020, and additional $4,000 to lighting, how close do we come to the 22,699?
Yeah, you come to,
2462. Yeah.
Matt?
yeah, you come to 22,462.
Yeah. So we have some change.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple $100.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you a question. If we put those 2 numbers in and Lucy works it out with the assessor's office and one hires before the other, we can, through a change, we can change the line items.
Transfer later on.
Yeah, later on. So if Lucy works it out with Martha and Lucy gets somebody sooner than Martha, that would work out maybe for both sides, but leave it up to the 2 individuals.
Yep. Yep, that works.
Okay.
Does somebody like to make a motion then?
Okay. I move that we reinstate the position of assistant town clerk and the administrative assistant to the assessor, effective targeted date of October 5th, for a total of $18,462.60. And
I suggest you do it separately.
Okay.
So I'm not comfortable.
I don't mean separately, but at least say $11,442.60 for the assistant town clerk line
Okay.
item, $7,020 for the assessor's administrative assistant line
Yeah.
item.
I'm not
Okay.
comfortable with the start date, Francine, just so you know. I support voting a dollar amount for a line item.
Yeah. So no start date.
Okay, that's what, yeah, you're right. That's what we said. They'll work it out. That's fine.
Okay, I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you, Francine.
Welcome. That's everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Don't go away yet.
You have 10 minutes. Go ahead.
We have a motion and second. Is there any further questions or discussion?
Who seconded it?
I did.
Don.
Okay, thank you.
Any further? Okay, then all those in favor, roll call.
Fishman, aye.
All's aye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Broden, aye.
I make a
Thank
motion
you
to
very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very much.
I make a motion to add $4,000 to street lighting.
And I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, whoever.
Motion by Matt. Who seconded?
Francine.
Who? Who
Francine.
seconded?
Yes,
Francine.
I did.
Further discussion?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Fishman, aye.
All's aye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Broden, aye.
I make a motion to add the following amount to the general school at Norris budget in the amount of, Ed, what's the number?
It is $26,736, Matt.
That number.
I'll second it.
Matt and then John, is there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Tishman, aye.
Falls eye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Ed, what was that number again?
$26,736.
Okay. And then do you guys want to know what the difference is between what we just allocated for streetlights and the two positions and add that? It's a couple $100. What do you want to add it to?
To ask a question, were there two separate motions on the two positions?
No, we did it in a combined motion for the dollar amounts.
Okay.
They'll work it out.
Okay, all right.
Well, Ed, where do you, I mean, it's only a couple $100. Where do you think?
One quickie question. One thing that we've also, aside from the reserve fund, but $200 is not going to do any good there. The other thing that I noticed that we had zeroed out was the, I think it's the website updating or whatever. It was a $600 budget item.
Do you want me to share the screen in the budget? So we
Is there something to put back there? Maybe just, I mean, I don't know who's doing the website, but I think it could use some updating.
Yeah, we can do it out of the IT services.
Oh, okay, all right.
How about the Board of Health budget where we took the expenses away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm asking the select board to respond. Lucy, okay?
I'm sorry, can I leave the meeting now? Am I done?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you.
Do you guys want me to share the spreadsheet?
I mean, it's too little. It's $200, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3640.
How much?
I'll make a motion, we put it in the Board of Health expense line.
I'm fine with that. I'll second that.
What is it? Two what?
23640 is what I got.
Somewhere though, I think we should,
$237, yeah.
yeah. We still have a total issue. Ed, you didn't find that other total issue that I raised? No?
No, well, all I can tell you is I went through that spreadsheet about 4 times and the numbers add up.
But something, it's got to be like a reverse digit or something, because there was $1,300 difference when I did it.
Is this in what spreadsheet?
The one he sent out today that was attached to the meeting. The line, I sent an email about it.
It's back to that original one that has the 3 yellow columns in it.
If you look at the email I sent out, Matt, it's there. There were a couple lines that were the amount we tried to take out to balance did not mesh with the total figures.
We have a motion on the table right now. I just wanted to know if there's any discussion about that. Would anybody like to say anything about the $236.40 as a possibility for the expenses in the Board of Health line?
Did somebody second that?
No.
Yes, I think John made the motion, and I believe Chris seconded it.
Yep.
Okay. I had John as the motion. I just didn't have a second.
I think my concern is two. One is if anyone's going to be eligible for NEMA, CARES Act funding, it's going to be the Board of Health. They did get $9,000. None of it's been spent. And also, we were very careful to not choose any department over another in terms of percentages or in terms of cuts. So I might prefer to put it in the reserve fund or add to the street lighting or do something like that, because I think we're, picking at one particular department. And I just feel like, there's funds that they might be eligible to that others wouldn't.
And I agree with Rainey.
That's a valid point.
That's why I asked Ed where he thinks among, all the building costs that you have, where we may have taken too much.
Well, the only piece that I will say about what Rini just said is that's fine if those particular expenses are related to COVID-19, but if they are not, and they just happen to be related to everyday inspections or whatever, then no, they are not eligible for FEMA or CARES Act funds.
But perhaps they could move some that other expenses that are appropriate for that grant from their regular budget into that.
They have, what, $511 or something like that in their expense budget.
Right.
We really cut them back, yeah.
I believe it was the same percentage as
Everybody else.
other departments.
Yes, it was.
That's correct.
Do you want to vote on this, or do you want to talk about it some more?
Well, if we had an alternative, I think I would probably favor just finishing up and adding it back to the streetlights. I don't see any value really in putting it into the reserve fund.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
It's such a little amount. I mean,
Okay.
No, I'm looking at, well, let's talk about what you could charge back to COVID. Custodial wages, if in fact we have to do, for instance, a deep cleaning for one reason or another. Or should we put it there? It's only $230, but I'm just anticipating.
sorry, Francine, you're talking about putting it where?
I just said, could we use it in, custodial wages in the event that we have to put in more time? Or could that additional expense be moved into that COVID money?
Additional expense, if it's related to COVID for cleaning, could be related to FEMA or CARES Act. In fact, I think there's like $8,000 in Phase 1 CARES Act fund that we did apply for additional custodial hours and wages that's already been approved.
Okay, well then that's taken care of. I look at town hall gas and electric, we shaved off $200 there.
Gas and electric, I think we should be fine with the credits we're getting. If you were going to look at a town hall expense account line item to put it into, I'd put it into the town hall expense line item.
So do we need to vote on the motion on the floor or rescind it?
That would depend on if the person or people that made the motion and second are interested in doing that. Otherwise, we vote on it.
I say just vote on it and let it go where it goes. It's only 237 or what?
Right, that's
236.40 exactly.
So John, you would like the motion to go forward, and Chris, you would like your second to go forward. So we'll go ahead and vote on it. The vote is to give 236.40 to the Board of Health for expenses. All those in favor?
Martin, aye.
Fowles, no.
Roland, no.
Fishman, no.
Roden, no. Would someone like to make another motion?
Yeah, I move to add 236.40 to street lighting.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
And just to be clear,
Chris.
it's over and above the above the 4,000.
Yes,
right?
sir. So it's 4,000 plus 236.40, making a grand total of 4,236.40 add to that line.
Okay.
That's the motion.
Motion by Matt, second by Chris. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Roland, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Groden, aye. Opposed?
Fishman, no.
Martin, no.
Okay, it carries in. So what it sounds like to me is that between the two positions, 18,400, the school 26,736, and the street lighting 4,236.40. Does that come out even, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know is that we should be adjusting the actual budget, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, so that works out.
I think what you said, Rainey, anybody can adjust the budget on the town meeting floor, so it'll be interesting if somebody comes up and does something entirely different that we don't think about now, so.
Yeah. Can I just point of clarification about the positions again? So the total amount that Jen had sent us was that 18,000 number, but the vote that we took was just between the two positions, even though we decided that it was going to be separate positions?
Yeah, so the way the vote was is we allocated the funds associated with an October 5th start date to each position. So for the town clerk, we allocated $11,442.60, and for the administrative assistant to the assessor, we allocated $7,020.
Okay.
And then, that's based on an October 5th start date, but we removed the start date language and just allocated the funds to each position because the town clerk and the assessor are going to work out when each person starts to make sure that it's balanced. Like if, for instance, the town clerk wants to start in mid-September, her and the assessor are going to, obviously, hopefully the assessor would be willing to delay the start of her admin assistant so that the math works, if that makes sense.
Okay, but what's being presented on Saturday would be 11,000 versus 7,000 versus 26. So that would be the $4 amounts, including separating out the positions.
Yes.
Okay, good. Would somebody be interested in proposing that as a member of the board, but as an individual citizen?
I'm fine with doing it.
I said I would do it.
You can do it,
Whoever.
Francine.
Any of us, I'm sure,
You
yeah.
got a number of people.
Okay,
It's gotta be written up so we're ready for it in the proper form, so Robert will accept it.
it has to be in writing.
Write it up for you.
Copies.
2 copies.
I'm happy to have Francine do it.
Well, I was just thinking, Matt, since you have all the numbers there,
Yeah, Matt, I think I'd support
Yeah.
you in that.
I think you,
Yeah, you've done a good job. You've helped us a lot with
yes.
all these numbers, so I think it'd be great if you're able to do that.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Ed, you'll write it up?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Anything else about the articles or this agenda item in particular? Okay. Let me just find the agenda back again. Does anybody have it handy? It goes
I got
back.
it.
Any other necessary business that can't wait till next regular meeting?
Okay, so I have a couple of things here. Couple things that have come up. One of them is there are 2 things, and the question is, I'm just wondering whether or not, let's talk about when we also have another meeting. But a couple things that came up is, one is there was a proposal, a letter that went out. It was like an internal memo from Charlie suggesting that a committee be together. He's proposing capital committee that would be working to secure grants, MEMA, FEMA, CARES Act, that sort of thing. I'm just wondering whether that should be done as an agenda item, because I think it's, we're going to be appointing an ad hoc committee or changing the rules. I don't know if we can, because the bylaws of capital state, what their charge is. But I'm just wondering if that should be an agenda item by itself, so the public can be part of that conversation. And if so, would have to talk about it at another meeting. I also mentioned about the birthday thing has been postponed to the 26th. And then also Chief Illingsworth of the police department had sent out an email to the select board asking for, he's putting together a screening committee for when new people in his department are interviewed for positions, and he would like to, in the process of establishing an interview panel for the recent police officer posting, and was wondering if anyone on the board would be interested in participating. My intent is to establish a 6-member panel to include 2 members of the community, a select board member, and department staff. The selection process is truly key to our success, both internally and in the organization, as well as maintaining the public trust. I think this is a great thing that he's doing, and I think that the right environment and climate for it also. So he is looking to see if there is a member representative who would be interested in being part of an interview process. And I know that a couple people wrote back and said they were interested. So is this something that you want to tackle tonight?
That's fine. I mean, I know Francine was interested. I was interested. Is there anybody else? If not, Francine, you want to flip a coin and go from there?
Can I just mention something about this? I think when I first came on the board, there were select board liaisons to different department heads, and we stopped that because I think the department heads stand on their own and they report to Ed, and it was in some level creating a little splitting, and it was also undermining Ed's leadership. And so this, I want to be clear that this is not that this is to be present on interview panel for when new employees, so it's not a regular liaison assignment that you'll be reporting on. It'll be just for interviewing new candidates.
Yeah, it's an ad hoc type of position, yeah.
Just for this position that he's recruiting for at this point in time. Yeah.
But I think it's also for future hiring.
Yeah, I think it's great that he's willing to do that because it is a community position, these police officers.
And do you know who else is on the committee right now? I mean, I'm just wondering, in terms of the composition of the committee, it would be good to have some variety of people, obviously.
Yeah, I was thinking about diversity. And that would be one of the objectives, I think, of putting a group like this together.
Yeah. What other comments do people have?
I think just anybody that has good experience with interviewing and hiring will be fine on here.
Yeah.
I mean, Francine, if you think you're going to bring that diversity, I'm fine with saying fine with me, and I'll back off on it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if there will be other women. I mean, the likelihood that there might be more men on the committee, and I don't want to make any presumptions. That's why I found out the composition of it. That would help make me.
I tell you what, if you find out that it's not needed, come on back. If it's good, great. Yeah, I agree with you.
Are you all okay with that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm okay with that. Thank you for both for offering. Actually, I think that'll be, I give Chief Illingsworth a lot of credit for doing this. I think that with all the Black Lives Matter and all the discussion around the country around, the treatment of the public and the morale in the department, I think he's done a great job, and I think this is another good step that he's doing to make sure that it's representative. So thank you, Francine. I think that'd be great. We should have a motion then if we're authorizing a representative.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We authorize Francine to be the representative to the ad hoc hiring committee for the police department.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Fowles, aye.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye.
Sorry, Roland, aye.
And I'm going to abstain.
One other comment, I think the advantage of this is it's going to let the candidate see a diversity of the town and the people and ask questions rather than just asking police department officials. He'll be able to ask a whole, pyramid.
Yeah.
So I think it's great for both sides of it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great initiative. I really applaud the chief for taking that step.
Maybe it'll catch on.
Francine, I don't know. I think you can still vote for yourself. I don't think you have to abstain. I mean, I think you can still give yourself a vote of confidence. I mean, so just so you know, I mean, you have the right.
I understand. I know. I just don't want any appearance of anything. But since it went to 4, I guess me casting the 5th vote for myself isn't going to change the outcome. So I'll vote yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, thank you both. Thank you, Francine. So the other item that we talked about is the capital committee. So do people want to have that discussion? It would be under other business that can't wait, or do people feel like it should be handled as a agenda item that might bring in public interest about the topic.
I think I'd rather go with another agenda item for another meeting, because I think we've got to really look at what the capital committee is supposed to be doing now and what we would add to it if that was going to be the proposed change of what other duties would be required.
We're looking at individuals in the town who have that experience that would be willing to serve on a committee like that.
Yeah.
I would invite the capital committee members now and Charlie also, so everybody would be involved with the process.
Well, there might be some discussion about whether or not people support being an ad hoc committee that's not the capital committee and assemble a group of people that, you know, might also bring additional experience such as grant writing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to bring the capital if we're thinking about not having the capital, you know, might be members of the capital. Obviously, Charlie needs to be there. I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, he's our EMD at the moment, and it's about MEMA and CARES Act and all of that. Matt has expressed an interest in that as well, and certainly brings a lot to that committee. But I think, you know, my concern about the capital in the past has been, and it makes sense. I mean, it's police, fire, highway. That's the departments that get vehicles extremely expensive. But I don't think the seniors have been represented in terms of capital. And so I just want to make sure that it would be representative. That's all. I think that.
Then you want a group of people who will be looking at other sources of funding that might impact other programs and departments in the town, other than that very. And I'm not saying narrow in a pejorative way. I'm just saying, you know, with a single purpose, we're looking to expand. I mean, we have the green. I mean, we've got lots of initiatives on, you know, on the table there that we would like, that certainly need financial support. So I'm looking at it as a bigger pool of.
I guess one of my concerns is that we don't want to start another committee because we're having a hard time filling the committees that we have already. It just stretches people thinner. So do we wrap it into a current committee like capital or another one, or do we create a separate one for the grant funding?
But that I know of, and I can't use anybody's name, I know two people in this town who have tremendous grant writing experience and success, okay, and one doing it for a municipality. So, you know, that would be the kind of talent we want to bring. We're just not talking about just asking.
Sure, but there is a timeline component to this, and so it's not that those people couldn't be involved and wouldn't be invited and wouldn't be, I mean, very well welcomed to the scene, I mean, in this scenario. But at the end of the day, like, this money will eventually vanish. And if we do what we sometimes do is, you know, we get paralyzed by analysis and we just delay. We end up doing nothing, and we miss out on the grant funds and the funds entirely. Or we come to the deadline and we just basically draw off and pick the ones that we know with no real, like, analysis done and a pragmatic approach done across multiple different departments because we're rushing to meet a deadline. And so, you know, I hear you, Francine, and I'd love for those people to be involved, and they should absolutely be involved. And perhaps they could be, you know, whether they're true members or not, or they just simply want to come and help. I mean, the more the merrier, honestly. Like, I view the more the merrier across every single committee in town, and including these meetings. Like, anybody that wants to join, sign in, come on in. You have an opportunity to speak, especially those types of meetings. Like, I don't see any committee or department in town that stifles opinion, especially in this type of scenario. Like, the goal of the committee would be mostly to support Ed, who's the leader of this and the writer of this. And it's mostly just to gather and synthesize information to feed to Ed so that it takes a little bit of the burden of knocking down the doors of each of the individual departments, which includes all of the big ones and all of the small ones, top to bottom, seeking the information, making sure that we get an actual response, getting a list of needs, applicable needs for each of the grants and each of the areas in which the funding is available, making sure that there's a response given, synthesizing and agreeing to it, and feeding it off to Ed for easy processing.
But Chris already volunteered at our last meeting to search out grant opportunities, and, you know, so that, again, we're looking at a broader scope of funding that might be out there. in addition to the CARES Act. I mean, she was not one of the two people that I mentioned, but she herself has grant getting and grant management experience.
I think that, we assigned an open space ad hoc committee, and it has driven now a Friends of Open Space. They're now a standing committee, and it's been worked really well with the Conservation Commission and other departments. And so I think there's just been a lot of success there. I would be, I'd like to see what the bylaws are for the Capital Committee. And I think my preference would be like for the next select board meeting, which is only a week away, putting it on the agenda and getting a copy of the bylaws, and then deciding whether or not, we put together an ad hoc committee for the rest, for the balance of the fiscal year to, be really aggressive and going after funding. It's all timing when you have something like COVID or 9/11. I mean, it frees up tons of money, and I think you have to be in the right place at the right time, and we can't delay, and we also need people that are willing to help out. So whether it be Capital, who has done a very good job for our town, or whether it be an ad hoc committee that includes a wider group of people, I still think it's a great idea, and I think that it shouldn't delay. I'm just not sure that we should post it as a position so that people are aware of this debate, and if it can happen as soon as next week, that would be great. I'm just wondering if anybody is aware of the current bylaw for Capital that says anything in terms of the scope and mission, if it seems general enough, if we can start there. Or...
Well, one of the pieces you should be aware of is it limits it to 5
sources of funding.
Voters of the town.
Voting members.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't mean participants, though.
Yeah, that's true. So but I was also wondering, do the bylaws specify, operational stabilization capital, does it get to that detail where their charge is to, annually review funding sources and make recommendations, does it get that specific is what I'm wondering.
Well, not really. I can read it to you. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to amend the charge just like we did for, as we rewind the bylaws committee or any of the other committees. We'd have to amend the bylaws.
Yeah, I'm looking to
the
see.
charge, rather, not the bylaw, the charge.
The Board of Selectmen shall establish and appoint a committee to be known as the Capital Improvement Committee, composed of not more than 5 voting citizens of the town of Southampton, each member to serve a 3-year term upon adoption of this bylaw. Let's say, there shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen 2 members to serve for a term of 1 year, 2 members to serve for a term of 2 years, and 1 member to serve for a term of 3 years. The committee shall elect its own officers. The committee shall study proposed capital projects and improvements involving major tangible assets or projects which are purchases or undertaken at intervals of not less than 1 year, have a useful life of at least 1 year, or cost $5,000 or more. Such capital improvement program, after its adoption, shall permit the expenditures on projects included therein of sums from departmental budgets for surveys, architectural or engineering advice, options, or appraisals. All department heads, boards, and committees shall, by October 1st of each year, give to the committee on forms prepared by it information concerning all anticipated projects requiring town meeting action during the ensuing 5 years. The committee shall consider the relative need, impact, timing, and cost of these expenditures and the effect each will have on the financial position of the town. No appropriation shall be voted for a capital expenditure requested by a department, board, or committee unless the proposed capital improvement is considered by the committee's report, or the committee shall first have submitted a report to the Board of Selectmen explaining the omission. Section 3, the committee shall prepare an annual report recommending a capital improvement budget for the next fiscal year and a capital improvement program, including recommended capital improvements for the following 5 fiscal years. Continued on next page, the board shall submit its capital budget to the annual town meeting for adoption by the town after joint review with Finance Committee of funding available for capital budgets. The committee's recommended capital budget shall be published in advance and made available in town meeting members.
Well, I can tell that the bylaws committee hasn't cleaned that one up yet.
Yeah, actually, Chris, go ahead. We did.
No, go ahead.
We did, and we sent.
You lost me about halfway through that.
We've done some of those, yeah.
Yeah, we did, and we sent our proposed changes to the Capital Improvement Committee, and we got some feedback, but nothing was finalized. Am I right, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have had anything about looking for funds or outside revenue or anything in that.
No.
We hadn't gone in that direction. We were modifying what was already there.
Right.
Yeah, so we either decide to, recommend a modification of the bylaws, or we, discuss about having a different committee or whatever, but I'm going to suggest that we not delay that, but that we have that conversation with a posted agenda. Are people okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Matt, you're part of Capital. Did you, to me, what I heard was fairly narrow in scope. But certainly the charge of your committee all along has been to, review departmental requests and make recommendations. So at least the process is the same. I just wonder if you want to comment at all about.
No, I think we love the responsibility. The department heads, top to bottom, are used to hearing from us with regard to these types of issues and things. And I think that our committee has always done a really good job, especially working with the individual department heads, but also working with Ed and also town accountant and getting the dollar amounts and figuring out how to fit things into different buckets. And Ed's along for the ride on these meetings too, and helps us with all of it. So I do think it's a cohesive group. And I think that it could easily help streamline, create some efficiencies, and at least just hold people accountable to this otherwise free resource. I mean, look, like a lot of this stuff is stuff that we need both in COVID times, and even I think when we're getting some of this stuff for COVID times, we should be also thinking about how this stuff could be repurposed in post-COVID times to help us long term. I mean, it certainly shouldn't be just used in COVID times and then stashed in a closet. And so I think the purpose of that committee is to deal with some of these types of things. Most of this stuff is capital related, and the work of the capital committee, at least for the function of the current year's budget, is done. And so that committee has time, and I think it's filled with dedicated citizens that wouldn't otherwise mind taking up this approach, helping out Ed, and doing some legwork. Really, that's all it is legwork and some analysis.
Well, it seems to me that there are 3 kind of directions. One is to consider having the bylaws amended and include having the capital committee do this. Another is, if you remember the open space committee, they sort of expanded their committee for a period of time every 7 years for the purposes of the open space and recreation plan. It could be a similar thing that at whatever point the committee could expand, be inclusive of additional members for the purpose of seeking funding during periods of blah blah blah. Or it could be another committee entirely at an ad hoc level, whatever. But why don't we plan on talking about it next time? And if you can send out, Ed, what you just read to people, that would be really helpful.
Within 10 minutes of the meeting being over, I'll send it out.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion about that? At this point, I believe we're at open time for the public.
Oh, no, we're still on other items that can't wait till next meeting. I know I have a couple.
Okay, go ahead.
Did you have something, Chris, you said?
I would like to raise something, but go ahead first, yeah.
Okay, I thought of them as they came up. We always have an issue when we're looking at budgets in hiring people at that 20-hour level because benefits kick in. Is that something we should put on an agenda down the road to look at that and determine if 20 hours is still the proper amount of hours to provide benefits? I wouldn't want it to affect anybody that's working now, but future hires may be something we want to look at. And I know PQB would have to be involved, but just every time we talk about it, well, we can't hire at 20 because that's benefits, so let's hire at 18 or 19. And I think we're looking at it the wrong way. So I just thought it'd be something we should bring up on an agenda item and discuss it.
That 20 hours is set by law.
It's set by law?
Correct.
So we have no way around that.
The only way around that is if you were looking to hire somebody that for 20 hours or above
Contract.
and they were willing to sign a waiver to pass on the health benefits.
Okay, so that's something we can discuss. Now, sometimes municipalities are exempted from some of these laws. Is that not the case here?
That is not the case here.
Okay.
Remember, the van driver was somebody who, remember, had consistently compiled more than 19 hours and ended up being over, and then he signed a waiver about the health benefits, but he wasn't entitled to the retirement. And then this Council on Aging then went ahead and hired 2 van drivers. Each of them changed it so they each were less than 19.
So the strategy would have to be somebody would sign off not having the health benefits. Okay, that was one thought. The other one, we talked about the annual town meeting, we've talked about the EMD, and those 2 thoughts in my mind clicked. Didn't Charlie Kanicki only agree to serve as the EMD to the annual town meeting, which is Saturday?
Yep, and there was a vote by the select board to provide funding to him for April, May, and June.
Right.
But he needed to stay on until the town meeting. So at this point, because there's money now from the CARES Act funding, then I think we need to take the job description. I think it did go to PQB. I've been saving that email. It's already gone back a long time. So at this particular point, we need to move towards posting that position.
So I guess my question is, technically, will we have an EMD after Sunday if we haven't posted or hired anybody?
Actually, I think we said August 31st, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the end of August.
Yeah, we did. That did get altered a little bit.
Okay, so
We got to be careful, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that what we need to do is move forward with posting the position, and I'm pretty sure we have a job description. It's already actually gone to PQB, I believe. That's so I guess it would be under us and Ed then to actually. It would be under our purview, so it would be a matter of taking the next step towards posting the position.
Okay, so we gain a couple more weeks then.
Yeah. So I think that needs to happen sooner rather than later.
And so the decision through PQB was to allow us to change this from a volunteer position to a paid position.
Yeah, so there was a memo. I mean, I have to go back and this was from September 28th, 2019. PQB, we're asked to score the EMD director position. A job description using the attached template will have to be filled out by the select board or designee, town administrator. Once a job description has been approved by PQB, the job will be scored at a pay range will be determined. The select board designee will submit a PRF. Once the finance committee, which is now no longer a requirement, then the select board approves the PRF and the job will be posted. So I think we're already at the point, frankly, I've not seen a job that has stipend. Yeah, so actually the question is, what level do we have to go through the PQB for a stipend position?
Right, I don't want us to get locked into
Yeah,
salary analysis and then unknowingly we've just made a commitment.
yeah. We know that it's basically set up to be $1,000 a month. It's $15,000. 12 of it was already committed for the last 3 months of the year. Or it could be, we know the line item, let's say, it doesn't have to be monthly because we may or may not have one right away, but at any rate, I mean, in July and August, we didn't.
Right.
So Ed, can you just chime in here? I mean, I think you may have discussed last time at what point for a stipend position. I had actually checked with Vicki to see how many stipend positions do we have. I think we only have one, and it's the veteran agent. And I don't know whether or not that position would need to go through through the PQB. According to the PQB chair, yes. I'm not sure if that's mutual agreement.
Does the, oh God. Is the animal inspector a stipend position also?
I think that you're absolutely right. The tree warden is not, but
No.
I believe the animals, you're right. I think it's the animals inspector and the veteran agent, come to think of it.
Let me follow up and find out how to go about doing a stipend position real quick, and I'll start the process.
Okay,
The only difference is this is not coming out of the operating budget, it's coming out of the CARES money.
right. And, yeah, yep.
But honestly, I mean, next year, if we don't have CARES money, it's not necessarily going to be a line item in the budget.
Yep.
So this would only go for the life of the grant if in fact that's the route we take.
I do think that, we should, also perhaps speak to Art. Like I said, this was, his step-by-step is, basically follows what is a typical position within the department. So do we need to do this if it's a grant-funded position? Do we need to do it if it's a stipend position? I think those are the questions. And to move it along as fast as possible.
Yeah, I'll speak to Art about it.
Okay.
I agree.
Thank you. What else? Did you have something else, John?
No, that's it, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want, go ahead, Chris.
I just wanted to raise something. Maybe if it's appropriate here, but I wanted to raise a concern a little bit about our general communication channels, especially our communication channels with the residents and follow-ups to any of their concerns. It seems to me that we've had a variety of scenarios that have played out in the few months that I've been on the select board, and I think we need to sort of have a better process where it's a little bit more understandable as to where things should be directed. I know at the beginning of every select board meeting, we've told people to, write in their questions or, raise any concerns, ask their questions, join the meeting. And I think we're getting better at that, and we're able to, answer them, if not at the meeting, then at the next meeting. But I think, all of us have got, various connections in town. We've all got our daily lives and the people that we interact with. So in some cases, it may be easier for some residents to feel more comfortable sending a note to somebody about something that they're not happy about or a question that they have. Sometimes they may go to Ed alone. Sometimes they may go to the select board without Ed. Sometimes they go to one of us individually. Sometimes they might go to a town department head and none of us know what's going on. So it just seems to me that we need to have something that's more transparent, but also more accountable, more timely and responsive to the citizens that are going to take their time to, bring forth an issue for us. And so I was wondering whether if it's this particular time frame within the agenda of our normal select meetings that we have any written correspondence that may have come in, whether it be text, email, letter that's come in since our last meeting to any one of us, be publicly shared, or we have a separate agenda item for that, time for that at our select board meetings. And if there's nothing, there's nothing. But to the extent that there are things that come in, it just feels like to me we ought to be more transparent and timely in terms of, letting people know that this is an issue. We see a lot of things on the social media site, but, that isn't where we should be conducting business. So I would rather, have it more formalized where people are asking us a question about whatever, the paving on Pomeroy Meadow or something, and the mailboxes on Glendale Road, and having it talked about openly and publicly from the officials of the town. So I guess I was going to just recommend that, or ask not only to maybe create that space within our agenda for every meeting, but then in general, if anything comes in to either Ed alone and not the select board, or one of us and not the rest of us, or maybe sometimes we're copied on a letter to somebody on a department head that, we get copied eventually when things are not getting responded to, but I guess I would like to be more proactive somehow about all this. So I just would like to recommend that maybe we try to do a better job of creating space for that and having a sharing so that we can, be responsive to the residents' concerns, but also hold ourselves accountable. So that's my 2 thoughts.
Yeah, having a line item for correspondence makes sense.
Other comments?
No, but I do have, I don't know if anyone else got a letter, but I did get a copy of a letter from Nancy Gwinner. So I would like to put it on if this is a new agenda item, as the first item under that new agenda for our next meeting.
Okay, could I just ask about any other general comments? I think that I just want to say a couple things. First of all, I don't want our committee to be responding to social media. So I think that if people post things on Facebook, I do encourage, and I know people on this committee also encourage them to contact department heads. Certainly there's a lot of comments about highway stuff, and Randall always says, please contact me. Don't just post things on social media. And I think I've seen, many of us do the same thing. So I just don't want us to be responding to anonymous claims, or even, and I also, even some people that CC us, I don't know if their intention is for us to read their concern online. I don't think we have their permission to read their concern online, especially if we're a CC. So I guess that's my concern, is we could be airing somebody's letter that was never intending it to be sent out and recorded. So I guess that's another one of my concerns.
It's a valid point, yeah.
And I know when you first started talking, I believe that one of the things you were making reference to is the issue that happened with the porta potty. So the resident put out an email and said 4th request, and I believe the first request was a social media request, but put out a 4th request in capitals, urgent, saying that about not having any porta potties and people using her yard as a porta potty, and we were all appalled and disgusted by it and all that. And I just have to always ask myself, and I would encourage the select board to ask themselves, is this my problem to solve? Do I have a responsibility to respond? Because I think that sometimes it's not our job. Sometimes our job is to actually hold the people that are supposed to respond accountable, and other times we're supposed to praise the people that do respond. Mm-hmm. And so in that particular case, Ed Gibson came into the town hall and got in touch with Mark Reed, who got in touch with this camp, who changed the plans, and Jerry Swanson got involved. It was 4th response. So I hear what you say, but I do think sometimes there's a tendency, sometimes by our board, to jump in and try to solve the problem when it's not our problem to solve.
Yeah. No, I wasn't suggesting that, Rena. I was suggesting that, when we know that, if one of us found out a situation, I think my first inclination would be to send you an email, or you and Ed an email saying, hey, look, this came to my attention. I just wanted to let you know, but let you guys figure out how to handle it, and whether that's appropriate to bring up at the next meeting in detail, or just allude to, we're taking care of, a complaint about an issue related to X. I do see your point about not sharing something that we were not addressed on specifically. I do get that point.
That particular one, What I did when I got that, and I took the private person off of that list and just sent it back to the board, and I found out what a porta potty would cost, and I said, do we need to put it on the agenda, or do we need to, address it now? So I was getting information, and I didn't send it back to the individual. I sent it to our board and Lucy, who sent it to us. So to me, that's just helping out the process.
Yeah, I don't really think that that was helping out the process, John. I think that was jumping in to solve a problem that wasn't our problem to solve. And in fact, Mark Reed had already contacted SYAA, and they were actually supposed to get the porta potty and pay for the porta potty and arrange for the cleaning. So I just feel that it's not necessarily our problem to solve, and it's not necessarily helpful when people jump in and start responding to either department heads or the public, or like try to take steps to solve the problem. I just think we end up putting out all these things all over the place, and I don't think it's our problem to solve. I don't think that it's the step that was helpful, frankly.
I agree with you on we shouldn't respond to the public, which I didn't. I took the person off, but I think we're all, if you've got somebody urinating and all that in the park, and we don't know that somebody's addressing it, being a little proactive, saying, if you need us to do this, here's the cost, we can get it done. It took, what, a week and a half after we got that letter for the porta potty to show up? We could have done it that same day if we needed to. So the process was a little broken to get that done. And I was proactive getting the information and gave it to you folks, and I think that was appropriate.
Well,
I'm not going to send it out to anybody in the community, but it was that closed loop.
Part of meetings too. I think there's been an awful lot of communication happening lately, and I think when the select board jumps in and starts contacting this person, that person, everybody else, it also encourages deliberation outside of a meeting.
Well, you shouldn't do that. But I mean, when Ian said SYAA is taking care of it, I'm great. Okay, if he used the information I gave him, great. But if not, we got an answer.
I think we should be asking questions before we just do things. I mean, if I already contacted SYAA and Jerry and Ian already went down there, I think that particular problem was a problem of the Board of Health, the police department, and the Park Commission.
Well, I think that was just such a disgusting issue that responding was fine, and I just stand by that. I wouldn't go out to the community with that information, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think part of that ties in a little bit to what I was trying to allude to there is that, sometimes people might write to one of us because they know us, okay, and they feel comfortable with us, but other times people genuinely don't know who to address their complaint to. They may know that Ed exists, or they may know that, it should go to the, police department or the fire department or whatever it may be, but sometimes they just don't. And so communication can also get misdirected and land in somebody's inbox and not be dealt with either. So I don't know exactly what the solution is, but that's why I was thinking that at least if there were comments or letters coming into that were addressed to us as the body right here, that we should make time for those to be I don't know, made public, I guess, unless somebody says, please don't share this. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like we need a better system.
But I think in bringing these things to the full committee, if we have an opportunity to discuss it, and then with one voice, we come to some conclusion, and then with one voice, we give him information. And that's who we are. We're a body of people. We're not 5 individuals, per se, in these instances. And this gives us that opportunity to deliberate and to respond. And I think one of the main issues that I can see among people is that it seems to be taking a very long time for things to get in the pipeline. So if we do set it up, that we have this as an item on our agenda that we look at, and they can expect, a timely communication from us.
Mm-hmm. So Francine, the issue that you mentioned, I got a letter today, and it was from a concerned resident about a situation that involves the highway department. I literally got the mail half an hour before this meeting. So in this case, it would seem logical, since the highway department reports to Ed, that Ed would follow up, and then we would address the letter next week. Unless somebody has a different plan. I wouldn't want to read the letter without
no.
Randall being contacted.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I would agree with that. I also got the letter too, and I think it's one like that where we were just sort of blind copied on it just for information. So there, in my mind, that would be really Ed as the one that the the department heads report to, that Ed would be the one to just check and say, hey, have you already dealt with this? And let us know what the response is so we can just put it to bed kind of thing.
I know in my prior position, if you were CC'd on an email, it was just information only, and you didn't have the responsibility of replying to it. And you also didn't have to keep it as a public record because you weren't the initial two on there.
Yeah. I guess
Well, we weren't CC'd on it officially. I mean, we all obviously received copies of it.
Right. So to me, that's, I wouldn't do anything with that.
Okay.
I would just want to make sure, I guess we talked about like not sort of reading anonymous letters and text. I would want to bring issues that the public raised, but there may be people who don't want a letter that, read, I don't know, there's a difference, between submitting a letter that doesn't get read and, publicize. So I guess, I don't know what people think that line is.
Well, is there a way to I'm just trying to think it in, like even with the Open Space Committee, when we're talking about potential land issues and, the idea of maybe looking at some land that could be potentially interesting for future open space, we're not identifying the property owner. We're talking in terms of, plot numbers or, a map number. We're not identifying in detail the source. So maybe that's the issue, is that a letter came in from a resident and it concerns this subject and this is what's happening with it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not mentioning the resident's name whatsoever.
Fine.
Yeah, I also think that we're fortunate to have good department heads in town, and I think that, we've had a little bit of trouble with some of the committees getting the information. I think recently there was a problem we got a letter relative to ZBA. That got resolved, I believe, this week. So anyway, I just feel like, I don't want to take away any of the responsibility and accountability that the department heads have, because I do think, in general, people do a good job. So I think that's a fine line between like the whole social media thing versus the publicizing thing. And I agree with John. I think that there's a difference between getting a letter directly and getting a CC.
Yeah.
I think the CC is done, to add power to the statement and, bring awareness of a problem. But the obligation to respond is still with the person who is the department head, I think, or the committee chair.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they only CC somebody because they want to use it as a power, a little bat, if you will.
Right. I don't know if they're intending that it would then be read. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure that I have a general opinion on this. I just think that anything that can come to us is it's hard to box all of this in for me. I mean, the requests are different every time they come in. I mean, I'm not sure that I can properly box this in to basically see like these types of things are not in our purview. These types of things are, it should wait to an agenda item in a meeting. I mean, I just think as long as it's transparent and open and the communication is there and it's not just a single one of us taking care of it, and at least there's a chain approach to this and that everybody's well informed as to how people are responding and at least be able to check each other. I mean, we're talking about crisis scenarios here, like things that, I mean, this particular incident was not going to wait till this meeting. That would have been very inappropriate. So I don't know. I can go both ways on this. I could see items that are out of our purview and should be handled by somebody else. I could see things that, in a modern day age, we should be reacting to a little bit quicker. But also I do believe in the fact that like all of us need to be informed on these things. Like, I don't really think that any one of us should be acting individually or on behalf of the select board, regardless of how well-intentioned it might be, without at least the notification of the other board members.
I think a key to what you said is, and we'll use a porta potty example as we're using a crappy example, quote unquote. We were informed that this was going on at Labrie Field. So we knew there was something disgusting going on. So if nobody responded and we didn't say anything, we would be thinking individually like, okay, nothing's happened. We didn't know SYAA or the chief was doing it. So there needs to be some, I think what Matt was saying, some way to communicate to everybody that this was an issue, we took care of it, you know? Otherwise, you're sitting here saying, did anybody take care of that? That's pretty disgusting, you know? So just and maybe what you're saying, Chris, is that's how that would go around. And
I ended up getting an email. I mean, I sent an email back to the residents saying, I'm sorry that happened, and it sounds like the plan in place to solve the problem. I think Ed had reached out to Mark Reed, and Mark Reed basically wasn't allowing the plans to go ahead as far as the camp that was planned, but at least not there. And now there's a porta potty, I think, on the field as of today. But I do feel like there was, I mean, I didn't like waiting until requests, like 4. Like I'd rather hear, like, Ed, when you contact us and you say that either there's a fire, that something's happened in the town, I really appreciate hearing that before I hear it from my neighbor or my neighbor's cousin. But, and so I was more bothered by the fact that, I didn't even hear about this until that was the 4th request. Whether it was the 3rd or the 4th, I still think it was late for us to be aware of something that was, unfortunate at the least. So I think, I agree. I think there needs to be a closure, but I do think there was a little bit more of an email back that there was a plan in place to solve the problem. And I appreciate Chief Illingsworth's rapid response.
Yeah, Ian did a great job with that. He went out of his way.
Yep. Well, let's add an agenda item, Ed, as correspondence after open time for the public as a reminder. And then I think we should continue to talk about this. I think, I think this is a very committed board, and I think, our attendance and our length of it, I mean, I think that we're very committed to having good, open, transparent communication, and I think that if that can help, then I think we should do that. As far as the letter we got today, I'm, hopeful, Ed, you can reach out to Randall and...
Already have.
Okay, so we'll mention that next time and perhaps read that letter and also find out what Randall's done about it. Sound all right?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Chris?
No, sorry.
I mean, sometimes it's hard to determine, is this like an internal memo coming from the department head or one of the committee chairs? Is this, are they speaking as a public citizen? That, so sometimes it's hard to parse out. I don't think, I agree with you. It's hard to put all these things into a box and say that this is the plan for all of them. I don't think it works that way.
Yeah. Well, I think, as you and Ed are determining the agenda for every meeting, I mean, you guys are talking, and if there's something that's come in, I would think that maybe the two of you could at least look at it and say, okay, well, this is something that, needs to be handled, separately, or, we're going to mention the general issue, but we don't need to read the letter, or I just feels like people need to have some sort of closure. I guess that's the word, that the loop is closed, that it's not just open-ended of, did this ever get dealt with, or whatever. So however we can do that best, that's all I'm trying to advocate for.
Yep. And speaking of that, we have a meeting that's right now scheduled for next Tuesday. Is that still going to happen? Do you still want to keep that date? Should we go to the 25th? What do we need for follow-up after Saturday's town meeting? And also, what agenda items? I do want to hear back about the bidding on the insurance and disability. John was going to reach back out and see. So I'd like to put that on the next agenda whenever it is. Are there other agenda items that we'll put on about the discussion about the committee for funding? Is there anything that people would like to make sure is included next time around?
I guess I would like it. I know everything's been so disrupted because of COVID, but looking ahead to kind of getting some update from department heads periodically throughout the year.
Yeah.
Just keep us in the loop. We could get back on that a little bit.
Yep. Ed, where are we up to in terms of that? I know it got pretty disrupted for the past several months. I think there was it Charlie that was going to come, or the fire chief? I mean, we were due to have, I think we had a presentation and it was clustered around, I think, emergency, and then not everybody could make it. Do you remember?
I'll have to go back and check, but that does sound correct. But
Okay.
I will double check and see who it was.
We need, on the agenda next time or the time after, can we get an update on contracted employee status?
Oh, so I was going to ask, you mean the ones that are due for renewal of the contract?
Exactly.
I was wondering if the board was interested in having a session. We met with John, but we did not meet with Vicky. If you would like to at least have, I mean, I think, you know, the contract is technically was up on the 30th of June.
Yeah.
And did she complete her self-evaluation, Ed?
I haven't gotten it back yet.
Would you mind checking with her about that? And I would like to at least engage a conversation with her. I mean, obviously, we know the financial situation we're in, but I do think we should meet with her and have a conversation.
Certainly.
The other thing we talked about was just the general East Street update, you know, more detail in terms of the street paving itself. Not, you know, the bridge is one thing, but I think there's been a lot of chatter lately about the street condition itself. So however we can make that known, we talked about a special meeting. I don't know if that's really necessary, but I mean, whatever we want to do, but we need to do that pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, we could do it almost like a hearing, you know, at such and such a time, we'll stop what we're doing and we're gonna have a conversation about the update on the bridge. I don't know if it's worth bringing in the representative from VHB again.
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
Yeah. John?
Once we have the order of conditions and we're heading towards the bidding, which hopefully is shortly, yes, I'd definitely like to get John back in here for an update, and he is willing to do that.
And that includes the road.
Well, no, the road is, if you're talking about engineering, it's really separate.
Well,
But we can update them on the process for the road too.
Yes, we can.
I think the public just needs information, you know?
Yeah, I just like us to be more proactive and you know, stop the chatter rather than listen to it.
Yeah, because I think once we explain it, people will have timelines in their mind and understand that we haven't been sitting there doing nothing, you know?
Yeah. Okay, any other recommendations for next meeting or two? Right now, we have a meeting on the 18th, and that's the only meeting we have planned. So we'd like to look at the calendars, and then we'll do open time for the public. Ed, what obligation will we have coming up after the ATM, and how soon does that happen?
Really depends on what happens at the annual town meeting. There might not be anything that has to be immediately dealt with from it. Then it's possible that there may be something that comes up that we want to deal with, soon after.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the calendar right
No
now.
harm in keeping the current schedule.
Pardon me?
No harm in keeping the current schedule.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the calendar, and right now, the 18th is next Tuesday, the following Tuesday is the 25th, and the following Tuesday after that is the election. So we would not be having a meeting the night of the election. So were people interested in having a meeting on the 25th and not the 18th, or having a meeting on the 18th, and then choosing a different night the week of the 1st?
Okay with no meeting on the 18th and going to the 25th.
What do other people think?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, 25th is okay with me. If we don't have anything urgent to deal with, I don't see why
yeah.
not.
Okay, why don't we do that then? The next meeting then will be the 25th, unless we hear that there's urgent things we have to deal with before then.
Yeah, as a result of the annual town meeting, yeah.
Okay. Okay, then at this point, then we will open up time for the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak?
Hi, Tammy Lunas, 298 College Highway. Chris beat me to it. I have been getting a lot of questions in regards to East Street, and I would love for you to do the hearing. I didn't even think of a hearing, but that would be great, Maureen. They want an update, not just the bridge, but the street and everything. So if we could do that, I would greatly appreciate that. I know the public would. But we just got to get it publicized out there so that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But that was my main thing.
Okay.
That I wanted to ask you guys.
Okay. I agree. I think that's everybody that rides on that road is thinking the same thing. So we can emphasize it widely, but that will be definitely on the list. But definitely in September. If Ed, is our timing going to be such that it would be going out to bid and the information? Yeah, you mentioned about waiting to have John come in until it actually is out to bid. Would that be?
I'm hoping that the order of conditions is finalized and given at the next Concom meeting, which is Monday night. And once VHB has that, they can finalize the plans and turn them to 100% plans and put them into a bid process. So.
Okay. So I'll include for next, thank you, Tammy. I'll include for the next time the disability follow-up, the committee capital versus ad hoc committee follow-up. And we can see if we can have Vicki join the next meeting, which will be the 25th, Ed?
Sure.
Are you able to ask her about the self-evaluation, and we can all get a copy of that?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak for open time for the public? Just want to say thank you to everybody that's been working on the annual town meeting. It's very much appreciated. I know it's a huge undertaking, and it's been a lot of creative and hard work on the part of the committee. So thank you all for that. I hope everybody comes out and votes. It's very important that that happen. We obviously have to get a quorum, but we also want as much participation as possible as safely as possible. So thank you, everybody, for your help on that. If there's nothing else, then we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Matt.
Matt. Yep.
All those in favor?
Tishman, aye.
All's aye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
And Groden, aye. In order. Thank you, everyone.
See you Saturday.
Night.
Saturday. Bye.
Good night.
Aye.
Night.